Alright, so far throughout this course, you've probably heard me mention PGP a few times, and you're wondering what exactly PGP is. In the last video where we talked about Tor and how the Tor network works, I mentioned how there's major vulnerabilities in actually connecting with the Tor network, and that if you send any private information over this Tor network, that information is actually not secure, and people can figure out some personally identifiable information about you if you were to send it. This is where PGP comes in handy. Now, PGP stands for pretty good privacy, and it is a way to encrypt messages online. It's not used only for messages though. PGP can also be used to encrypt emails, text, files, and pretty much anything else that can be sent over the internet. It is the main tool used to encrypt messages and files over the dark web, and it was first created in 1991 but since has been perfected. And currently to the public, it is the closest known tool that can get you military grade encryption. You can't quite get to that military grade encryption because those are guarded secrets, but this is definitely a close second because no supercomputer in the world could break this encryption as long as you follow the steps accordingly. So let's take a look at two people in the next example here to better understand PGP. We'll be using Zach and Rob for these examples. Now, Zach and Rob want to send a message over the internet, and they want to make sure nobody can see it. So how would this process work for Rob to be able to send Zach his message without somebody on the internet spying and be able to open and read the message if they were to intercept it? Well, in that case, of course, Rob and Zach would want to use PGP to encrypt the message before sending it. Before diving deeper, it's important to note that Rob and Zach should obviously have a computer, access to the internet, and PGP software installed and ready to go on their computer. Now we'll write out the process first before we actually visualize the process so you can gain a better understanding of what exactly it all entails. And it's 5 basic steps to actually encrypt a message using PGP. First, Zach would have to create a public and private key using his PGP software. And even though it's Rob who wants to send the message, Zach would first have to create a public and private key. He would then share his public key with Rob, ensuring he keeps his private key safe. And then Rob would take the public key he got from Zach and encrypt the message he wants to actually send to Zach. And then, of course, he would send the message over. Zach would decrypt the message using the private key he ensured he kept safe. So let's look at the process with some illustration to get a better understanding. Of course, Rob has his message that he wants to send to Zach, and Zach has to first create that private and public key, ensuring that he keeps that private key safe. He would then send a symmetric copy, over to Rob, and Rob would use that symmetric copy of the public key to actually encrypt the message. He would then send that message over the internet to Zach, and Zach could open it up and read it. Now, if anyone on the internet were to intercept that message, they would just see a bunch of jumbo in there and wouldn't be able to understand the message at all. If they did get a hold of Zach's private key though and knew it was a message to him, they would be able to open it and read it, but at this point it would be illegible to anyone that reads it. This is the basic process of PGP. It's not very complicated, but it is good to note that there is a public and private key, and that the public key can be shared with anyone you want to send you a message. However, that private key is supposed to be kept for you and you only. If anyone gets a hold of that, they can decrypt any messages that were encrypted using that public key that was created with that private key. That is a very basic understanding of PGP, and throughout this course we won't really go any more in depth into PGP or how to use it. If you want to learn more about that, of course there are more learning resources on Deep Web Academy, and you can just search online as well to find better ways to use and actually encrypt messages with PGP. In the next video, we'll be talking about Bitcoin and the important role it plays in the dark web, and we'll actually understand how this idea of Bitcoin works when it's not even actually physical money. So if you want to learn a little bit more about Bitcoin, head on to the next video, and I'll see you there.